Demon Slayer isn't just about flashy breathing styles and epic fights. At its core, it's about suffering, loss, and how people deal with the cruelty of fate. Today, we're diving into the saddest backstories in Demon Slayer. Some will break your heart, some will make you cry, and others will leave you questioning who the real monsters are. The story begins where it all begins, with Tanjiro Kamado. At first, he's just a kind-hearted boy selling charcoal, living a simple but happy life with his family. He doesn't dream of becoming the strongest warrior. All he wants is to protect his loved ones. But when he returns home one winter's day, he finds his family slaughtered by demons. Every single one of them gone. Except for his little sister, Nezuko, but she's no longer human. This is where the tragedy hits. Tanjiro doesn't just lose his family, he's forced to carry the unbearable weight of protecting the only sibling he has left, who has become the very thing that destroyed them. And that leads us right into Nezuko's own tragedy. Because while Tanjiro fights to keep his sister alive, Nezuko herself suffers in silence. Her story is tragic in a different way. She doesn't die like the rest of her siblings, but what she gets is almost worse. She wakes up as a demon, unable to speak, constantly fighting the urge to eat humans. Imagine the pain of knowing your family was killed, and then realizing you're now considered the same kind of monster that destroyed them. Nezuko's tragedy isn't loud or violent. It's quiet. It's in the way she suppresses her instincts every single day. And the saddest part? She's just a child. She never got to grow up normally. But her struggle also highlights something important, that even demons still have humanity left inside them. And that brings us to someone who lost his humanity entirely. The man responsible for all this pain, Muzan Kibutsuji. On the surface, he's pure evil, the ultimate villain. But his backstory has its own kind of tragedy. Muzan was born sickly, constantly on the verge of death. He was desperate for life, desperate to avoid the one thing he feared above all, his own mortality. And so, through a twisted experiment, he became the first demon. But here's the irony. Even after gaining immortality, Muzan never escaped his fear of death. He spends centuries hiding, killing, searching for a way to become truly unkillable. That's his curse. He traded humanity for power and ended up with nothing, no love, no bonds, no meaning. Just fear. And if Muzan represents fear, then one of his strongest creations represents love twisted into tragedy. Enter Akaza, Upper Moon 3. Before he became a demon, he was a boy named Hakuji. His father was sick, and to pay for medicine, young Hakuji would steal. But when he was caught, he was branded a criminal. Life was brutal to him, and when his father took his own life out of guilt, Hakuji was left completely alone. But then came hope. He found a mentor, a dojo, and fell in love with a kind girl named Koyuki. For the first time, he had a reason to live. But tragedy in Demon Slayer never stays away for long. Rivals poison his master and his fiancée, and in one day, his entire world collapsed. Consumed by rage, he became the perfect target for Muzan. Hakuji became Akaza, a demon who could never stop fighting. But deep down, his humanity was never gone. That's why even as a demon, his fights were about honor, about memory, about clinging to something he could never let go of. And speaking of clinging to ideals, no one carried them stronger than the flame Hashira. Rengoku's story feels almost like the opposite of Akaza's. Where Akaza was consumed by despair, Rengoku embodied hope. From a young age, his mother taught him that those born strong have a duty to protect the weak. But when she died, those words became his only guiding light. His father, once a proud flame Hashira, fell into despair and abandoned his sons. So Rengoku became the man his father couldn't. He smiled through pain, carried others' burdens, and dedicated his life to protecting strangers. And then came Mugen Train, his final fight. His flame burned so brightly that, even in death, he inspired everyone around him. That's why his story hurts. It wasn't just about how he died, but how much loneliness and responsibility he carried before that. And his sacrifice reminds us of another brother who carried unbearable weight, Sanemi. Sanemi's tragedy is one of the most brutal. He grew up in poverty, abused by his father, but his only goal was protecting his many siblings. But one night, his own mother turned into a demon and slaughtered nearly all of them. Sanemi killed her himself, but by then it was too late. Only his younger brother, Genya, survived. Imagine the pain, killing your own demon mother to save your family, and still losing almost everyone. And to make it worse, Genya misunderstood and thought Sanemi was the villain. So not only did Sanemi lose his family, he lost his brother's love. His anger, his recklessness. It's not because he's cruel. It's because he's broken. And that broken bond leads us directly to Genya's own sadness. Genya is Sanemi's mirror. He wasn't strong like his brother. He couldn't use breathing techniques. He couldn't live up to the image of a demon slayer. But the thing he wanted most wasn't power, it was recognition from Sanemi. The brother who saved his life. The brother who shut him out. Genya's backstory is tragic not because of demons, but because of love twisted into misunderstanding. He fought tooth and nail just to stand on the same ground as Sanemi. His journey is one of constant failure, but also constant persistence. And in that way, he shares something with another upper moon who fought endlessly despite emptiness, Douma. Douma tragedy is unique. Unlike Akaza or Rue, his story isn't about love or family. It's about the absence of those things. As a child, he was worshipped by a cult, seen as a divine being. People poured out their hearts to him, looking for salvation. But the cruel twist? Douma was incapable of feeling anything. No joy, no sorrow, no love. He ate humans not because of hunger, but because he simply didn't care. That emptiness is his curse. He wasn't evil because of hatred. He was hollow because he never experienced what it meant to be human. And if Douma represents emptiness, then Rui represents the desperate craving for connection. Few backstories hit as hard as Rui's. Born frail and sick, he could barely stand. His parents loved him deeply, but when Muzan turned him into a demon, they tried to end his suffering by killing him. Rui misunderstood, believing they betrayed him. In despair, he killed them himself. Only later did he realize they didn't hate him. They loved him so much, they were willing to die with him. That's why Rui obsessed over creating a family of demons. Twisted, cruel, and fake, but it came from a shattered memory of love. Rui's story is sad because he wasn't a monster by choice. He was just a child, searching for something he lost. And that's what makes Demon Slayer's backstories so devastating. Every character, hero or demon, is shaped by pain. And that's what makes every battle in Demon Slayer so much more than swords and blood. It's a clash of tragedies. Behind every demon is a human, and behind every human is a story. That's why Demon Slayer doesn't just make us cheer, it makes us cry.